get used to the fact that
Ever get
I have
used
to
to what?
stare at my face. That I have to
Oh,
stare at my face a lot now in this life.
I know. This whole thing is like, yeah, it's not my favorite thing either because I'm one of those that tries to avoid having pictures taken of myself.
Yeah, me
And
too.
yeah, and it's like this is just like, oh my God. Hi everybody. We're live. We're gonna give everybody a couple minutes to get settled in. And Julia and I are gonna complain about our hair because we're
Yeah,
just having one of those days.
yeah. We don't know what's happening here.
Yeah,
We're
and
not sure. Yeah,
I got like either Little Orphan Annie or the Scarecrow. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not happy with it, but we're gonna and I will focus. That's the only thing I'll be focusing on. Talking about books,
I know.
no. I'd
And
be
I'm gonna just
focusing.
see this swoop of whatever it is.
I gotta wait. The way, and I've got
I know.
what's happening here. It's really making me angry though. I'm starting to get really mad. All right. So independent book. This is what I'll do. I'll just sit here like this. I'll sit here like this for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Independent Bookstore Day was Saturday. So Yahoo to everybody that came out. Thank you everyone that came out and supported. And today is the last day. San Diego, and Amanda, you probably talk better to this than I can, but San Diego does a book crawl, and there are 13 stores that are in the book crawl. And UCSD contracted for and organized the UCSD bookstore buses. So we had 3 buses. One of them went to all 13 stores. Yeah, in one day in San Diego on Saturday in traffic. And they made it, I think. Didn't they? Did they get to Diesel? I mean,
Yeah,
awesome. And they were
I'm
only like
You
shocked.
can do
they
it.
were only like running an hour behind. And so that is like incredible. And then the other 2 buses were, one was a 9-stop and one was a 6-stop bus. But I think that I was noticing, because I follow, I think like you do, Amanda, we're on a bunch of different like social media stuff with other bookstores and indie bookstores and stuff. There seemed like there was a lot of I don't know if anybody combined the bus and the crawl thing to like getting stamps, but I know that like some cities just had buses that went around all the bookstores. I don't know if they did kind of what our thing is, which is you get prizes for the more stores that you go to. And then I saw others that just ran, like in Houston, I think they had a passport with like going around and getting prizes and stuff. So it's a
I
big
think
deal.
Chicago. I think Chicago had a bus.
Chicago had the buses, I know.
I
They had
think
the
so.
buses
Yeah.
going around. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it all originated in Seattle.
Yeah.
They were the first ones, and we all stole their ideas. So thank you, Seattle. They seem to always have good ideas when it comes to independent bookstores.
They have a lot. I used to rep Seattle, and I remember just being like, I mean, I could literally spend like 3 weeks of my month here selling books to people, and I wouldn't hit all the stores.
yeah, it's incredible.
Like,
It's an incredible indie scene for sure, for sure.
yeah. But I did the San Diego book crawl last year
Uh-huh.
just by myself. Um I was your IPG rep at the time, not
Right.
Hachette. And it was a great time. I had so much fun. I did all 13 stores last year. I mean, I was beat by the end of the day,
Yeah.
definitely. But also like I discovered some stores I had never been into, Libellula,
Okay.
which I love, in Barrio Logan, a great store. And there were places that I hadn't been, or like had been only briefly. It
Right.
was great.
And that's the
I
thing that
highly
I think
recommend it.
that is, I think, the thing that is so fun about it. I am going to show some pictures here, Amanda, because I think it's kind of fun. Hold on, let me just go here real quick.
Libalula has not one, but 2 bookstore cats.
Oh,
Yes.
there you go.
I have given one or two of them little chin scritches
I
before.
love it. So there's Gabe, who's not here today. So Gabe would have gotten a shout out, but since he's not here, but he's getting a shout out, I guess, anyways. Uh, and then we have Paella, because we celebrate. I'm sorry for everybody. We'll get to books in a second, but just real quickly. Nancy went to Barcelona years ago, and there's a tradition. Oh, here comes Gabe. You must start. must have heard us talking about him.
His ears were burning.
Oh my God. He was watching live probably and saw us talking. Did you see us talking about you? Did you see us talking about you, Gabe?
I did not, but Deborah mentioned, are you going to, I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot about it.
Oh, thanks. Well, we're on live.
I don't have
And-
anything prepared, so you're gonna have to give the kid a second.
That's all right. But if you look on screen, you'll see a picture of yourself because you came by and saw us we're talking about Independent Bookstore Day.
Because somebody cares. That doesn't look like me.
That's you right in the middle there, baby, with the passport.
Oh boy, I can barely see my little tiny head. Oh my
I know,
There
the
you are. There's little Gabe.
The short
Little
one.
Gabe
Wow.
Barillas. Who used to call you that? Your mom? Little Gabe Barillas? Anyway, so we celebrate St. Geordie's Day, which is a Catalonian tradition of giving books and roses that goes back to like, I don't know, 1300s, maybe even before that. So Nancy always gets paella that's served there, and it's supposed to be, I heard it was delicious. We have a little dragon story time, which is so we have one of our booksellers always dresses up as a knight. And there's Susan getting the golden ticket. We gave away
All
from
right.
Is that where she got that?
were you? Awesome. So yeah, so it's a fun day. So there's, just lots of people.
Should we talk about the golden ticket?
The golden ticket is what is it?
So Libro.fm, our great audiobook partner, does this golden ticket program where 500 bookstores across the country can sign up. It's a limited thing to get these golden tickets that we hide in the store on Independent Bookstore Day. And the person who finds it wins 12 free audiobooks.
Yeah.
One for each month.
Cool.
And it's really cool. Like some people, there are some people who it's a bit of a cult following that you'll kind of spot them come in sometimes every year. They'll kind of very quietly come in and start looking around super low key because they don't want to call attention to themselves. But it's
Totally
great.
cool,
We love Libro FM.
We love it. We get music playing out in the front, more paella, little kids. But there was one that I was hoping to, I don't know, I can't remember which.
We
picture I
had
was
so
looking
many
for.
people come to San Diego for the crawl. We had a bachelorette party was doing the bookstore crawl.
Yeah,
Cool.
We had people fly in from Texas for the crawl.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's always incredible.
Yeah, it's a really good day. Anyway, so lots of shoppers, lots of good days, lots of good books. So it was a really good day. And it actually ours goes on for 3 days. So today is actually the last day of the crawl. So if you're in San Diego, you can get
I
to
think
some
Beth
stores
wanted
today.
to know how she might participate with the bus next year. I'd say the best way is to follow our socials. I don't know if you're an Instagram person, Beth, but a lot of our communications are there, at least for now. And just following our email.
Here's what I actually watching Warwick's is one. I'm going to give a shout out to another store. I think UCSD Bookstore are the ones that organize the bus.
They
so I
did.
would get on their email list too, because they probably promoted it maybe a little quicker than we did. And because that one bus sold out pretty quick. So I would get on their email list too, because you'd be like in the know. Because I think it's going to sell out even quicker next year, those buses. Because I think they were kind of ahead. Okay, we've talked for 15 minutes and haven't talked about one book yet.
I'm going to
Sorry.
disappear. Also, I apologize. Last week, I did not send the Tea Time e-blast out. So the books that were discussed last week will be included tomorrow. And I'm just going to disappear and let you all go on.
Okay, because you'll have a big email next week, tomorrow, whenever.
Tomorrow.
All right. So Gabe will give you a little bit more time. So Julia can start us off.
Yep. Okay. Except I don't know where my thing is. Hang on. I've lost
it's
my
Lost
Keep
my
some of that
way.
stuff, girl.
I've lost my screen. Okay, I found it. We're good. Okay, so my first one is a book called Missing White Woman, which
I love him. Can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
I love Kelly Garrett.
she's awesome.
She's so awesome.
Awesome writer.
Yes.
And if people are like maybe not as connected into some of the true crime world, the idea of the missing white woman is a concept that true crime podcasts and, writers and all those kinds of folks are talking about or have been talking about, which is basically that in our sort of media landscape, we tend to focus particularly heavily on stories of missing white women and ignore entirely stories of missing women of color, indigenous, black or indigenous women. And so this novel sort of takes that thread, that idea, that critique of media, and it fictionalizes it in such a way that it has like something very interesting to say about it. So in this book, at the same time and around the same place, two women go missing. One is a white woman and one is a black woman. And it really focuses on the difference of how those two missing women are covered by the media, how resources are given to, local police departments to try to find them, that kind of thing. And it really looks at this in a fictional way. So it's a thriller. It's going to grab you by the collar and drag you right through. But it really focuses on sort of this, this phenomenon and has something to say about it while also being a great yarn and a great book to read and a really fun mystery thriller novel. So I love this book. I think it's a great beach read. It's a little bit smart, of a smart beach read, and one that might make you think about a little bit about sort of how certain, groups, minority groups get left out of some of these narratives.
Yeah. I mean, it's a highlight to that, definitely. And she's got a great voice and she's got a great way of like getting all that in, but like you said, in this page turner that she does. She was a doll, so she was at BoucherCon. So we hosted her. Amanda put the little link in because we hosted her with S.A. Crosby.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I had an event with those two, which was just because he interviewed her for not this book, for a book or two ago. So we did BoucherCon. We sold the books at BoucherCon this last summer. And I'm like walking through the parking lot, like carrying books and carrying stuff. And I mean, she's one of the like presenting guests of the whole bit. She goes, "Do you need some help?" I mean, she was schlepping books with me. I mean, she's just good. She's just a gem. I just love her. So I know she's probably not watching, but if she is, we love you, Kelly. All right, Gabe, are you ready? Did we give you enough time?
Born ready to go. You don't need but a couple minutes.
Oh no, you're
I don't know why
on the
people make
spot,
such a
man.
big deal about this. It's like mother's milk.
Monday.
So I'm going to start with one of my favorite nonfiction books this past season, Silk, A World History. And it seems like, okay, Silk, I've read it. We're going to read about the Silk Road and it's going to be some history. But hey, look at that jacket. Ooh and ah. Let it get out of your system. It's a great looking package. Thank you, Julia.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jules. I got background singers. So
dream come true.
All I need is a cape and some big flares. What this book does is it says a world history of silk, basically, and it really is. It's really good history. Of course, you're going to get the history, Marco Polo, the Silk Road, all that kind of stuff. Also, some really good science, some really good botany, some really good zoology. I think it's as much a science book as a history book. It's got these little capsules of just really interesting moments in time. The manufacturing of silk, the evolution of the manufacturing, the different kinds of worms and that are used. It's like it opens up a big world. And I was expecting a big kind of an epic broad history book, and I got something that was just like a real education on the subject of silk. And it's a nice, big, fat, satisfying book. It's not one of those little micro histories. Like I said, there's a lot in here. So when you finish this, you have learned about the evolution of the silk industry, the history of various cities, of various countries, of how borders were arranged, borders that have gone down, tyrants, hordes, horsemen. It's just got a lot of stuff in here. So it's one of my favorite books. I've been waiting. It's like almost the last release of the season. I finally get to present this book. So here it is, beautiful package. It's going to look great on your shelves. You're going to feel good after you've read it because you're going to learn so much. Great quote from Cy Montgomery, who's all the rage. And it's the next big idea book club must read for April. So little things like that add up. I think we're going to get some good attention, and I'm excited. Like I said, I've been wanting to talk about this book to you all for a long time.
And I think it's one of those books that, like you said, I mean, I'm glad you pointed out that it's the book club pick or a good book club book, because there's a lot of book clubs that want to do just that. I mean, there's a lot of, fiction ones, but then it's like dig into something. And like you said, you're going to feel so much smarter after you read it. You're going to be like dropping facts.
Exactly. It's the kind of book. It's the kind of book I always like when they finish something like this. It's like, what? Can they see how smart I am?
Who can I drop some facts on?
Exactly.
I love it.
Funny thing, I was reading about silk the other day. Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that silk shirt? Let me tell you about
silk
that.
shirt. Let me tell you about what borders were.
Yeah.
All right, Julia, what do you save us?
Okay, I'm here to the rescue. Okay, except that I'm going to talk about a dark topic. Which is this book is coming out in paperback next week. This is Madame Restell, The Life, Death, and Resurrection of Old New York's Most Fabulous, Fearless, and Infamous Abortionist. So this did extremely well for us in hardcover. People absolutely love this book. The New York Times raved about this book. This came out right before I started at Hachette, and when you start a new job at a book publisher, you sort of like go through the list and figure out what you need to order to your house to like get a little bit familiar with the backlist and get familiar with the books that are just about to come out or are just coming out. And this one, it was an Indie Next pick and hardcover. This one is just, I mean, obviously there's the present day sort of situations that we're dealing with across the country in reproductive rights, but also what's really fascinating about this book is just the history of women sort of performing abortions and women helping each other in that way, women really like trying to give other women not just freedom but also to help them when pregnancies aren't going well and they need a medical abortion. So it's got all these various stories of this woman who was performing these abortions in New York City in the 1800s, and this is or Gilded Age, sorry, so early 1900s, and so this is, I just think, a really pertinent, a really timely book. Like I said, next Tuesday it's coming out in paperback, so I think if you didn't pick it up in hardcover, maybe paperback is the perfect, thing for you. And it's so well written. Like it just drives you through it. And again, like, I know some histories, I don't know, I have a degree in history. So sometimes I think like, I love I can kind of get down with a boring history, but I love a history that really moves and really makes you feel like you're reading a novel. And this one does that.
I just wanted to mention how good it is as well. It's it puts you right in the place, and it reads like a novel, I'd say. But it's true. So yeah, very good book.
And if you're brave enough, we were talking about a book club, pick it for your book club. Talk about something that needs to be talked about widely right now. And it's a paperback. So
yeah,
there you go. Just say it. Okay, Gabe. And before we go to Gabe, I just have to say, you all are talking in the comment section about some great books, and you all are amazing readers and read way faster than even I can. So it's incredible what you guys are reading on there. Somebody, I think it was Kim, read The Other Valley, and that's one of those books that like is popping up on my list that I definitely want to take a look at. So, okay, Gabe.
So many books.
I know. So little time. So many good books.
So many good books. And then here is something a little fun. The Funeral Crier. Doesn't sound fun, but it is a tradition in China, and I remember that it's a tradition in various cultures. The Romans used to do the same thing. They'd hire mourners to walk behind the procession and wail for you for a price, and apparently in China as well. And it is a continuing existence. It continues to exist in some rural areas, and this is who our protagonist is. She is a funeral crier, a professional. She's been married 20 years to this feckless husband who abuses her and doesn't work. He's everything you would want in a husband, or nothing you would want in a husband, actually. And she's about had it with him. And she is, so when we pick up the story, they've been together 20 years, and she's been at this funeral crier job for 10 years. And apparently it's one of those unclean, as exists in some of these older cultures, an unclean kind of job, profession. So she's ostracized by the community. Her father is in a home. She can't go visit him in the home. Really, the only refuge she has is when she goes to the barber and gets her hair done. It's the only time she can seem to have any kind of normal, communicable kind of a confrontation or conversation rather than confrontation. And she's accepted there. And then, the husband cuts out, her daughter leaves, no one can stand the life, and she's left to her own devices. And she looks at her life, and she takes this leap of faith and decides to mix things up and move on with her life away from her husband, and find love in other ways and find a way to better like herself. So it's really a simple novel. We've seen Ann Tyler's done a million of these things, the woman trying to find herself, but it's such an interesting voice. It's a funny novel. It's a darkly comedic novel. So you think it's really full of, it's dark, and it is got its moments, but it's also got a sense of humor and some depth and some warmth to it. And you really, really come to love our protagonist and our character, and the way she sticks up for herself, and the way she continues to sort of fight on in this world where she's got like zero support system. But she runs across two people who sort of pull her out and help pull her out. So community comes into play, lots to talk about here. And I think it's a really interesting telling. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about this narrative, was the way it was told and the way it was presented to you. It's just got a little extra flavor. It's really well done. So I'm hoping it gets picked up, and I'm hoping it gets looked at, because there's a lot going for it.
Well, what I like about it too is that it's not something that's been, I don't think it's been written about a lot. That topic.
I didn't know it occurred still.
Right. And so I think that's a compelling part about it too, especially for people who do like to read for book clubs and stuff. That's something that is a unique topic.
Way out.
Yeah, I love it. Is it paperback or hardcover, Gabe?
Hardcover.
Hardcover. Okay. And it's
Until
just
tomorrow.
Out tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, it looks good. Very interesting. All right, Julia. What's round? Are we on round 3 already?
Yeah, we are. Okay, so I have another paperback release for tomorrow. It was vulgar and it was beautiful how AIDS activists use art to fight a pandemic. I know that Sarah Schulman's Let the Record Show was a wonderful comprehensive history of ACT UP. This is a comprehensive history of Grant Fury, which was another art collective that was using their both visual art and sort of performance art to fight AIDS, and to most notably sort of get the Reagan and Bush 1 administration to fund AIDS research and to change some of the rules that the CDC had at the time on how they were approving AIDS drugs. And actually, you know, what's very interesting is that some of those approval processes are what helped speed through COVID vaccines a couple of years ago, helped us get those as quickly as we did. So it's definitely not the past thing, but something that I think still resonates to today. I think one of the things about all of these, and we've gotten, I feel like in the past 5 years or so, we've gotten a lot of great real histories of the AIDS crisis and the AIDS epidemic, particularly around the start. And I feel like we have enough distance now to be able to sort of look back and see sort of what was done and what happened and put that into historical context. This is a gorgeous book. It is gorgeously written. The AIDS, the triangle, Silence Equals Death triangle came out of this art collective. And it's a really interesting sort of story also about art in the public domain, because all of the art from the Grand Fury Collective is in the public domain, so it can be used without royalties or anything like that. So it was just these artists really trying to spread attention and awareness to this cause. This book got a starter review in Kirkus Library Journal and Book List when it came out in hardcover. I also think it's a great history. It's a very readable history, and one that I think, you know, it's funny because I'm of the age where I grew up sort of right after there were like antivirals and stuff like that. So it was, but like I got the scary sex ed when I was going through school, like you will die if you get this kind of thing. And so I think I realize now, of course, I think I'm young, but I'm not that young. And so I realize now that there's a whole generation that you know sort of has missed this history altogether. And so I think it's a great book for those who didn't live through any of this, and also those who lived through it and maybe you know, we're just trying to survive and get through it, and now can look back with a bit of a clearer eye on the history.
Well, and it's true, and it's like, and even I lived through it because I was, but it, because so many things in the news were it was so weird. You know what I mean? It was just a time where it was like everything was, it wasn't really talked about, you know, in a way that it should have been. Famously. So for people like me, it would be, even though I lived through it, there's probably a lot that I didn't know that was going on, you
Sure.
know? And like you said, connecting those dots to things that we take advantage or just take for granted today came out of a lot of that research that was going on at that time for that. So really interesting connecting those dots for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Gabe, let's say, yeah, Elizabeth, yeah, it's hard to remember what was going on with all that. Okay, Gabe, what you got?
I'm gonna finish up on the an old classic backlist book that I think needs to be re-examined. We are just re-releasing it, on sale tomorrow again, or actually I think it was on sale this past week. Hannah Arendt's definitive work on totalitarianism, and it's called The Origins of Totalitarianism. So this, like I said, this book was written back in 1951. You know, you read the paper today and you are seeing people that are cheering authoritarianism. People who want to vote for somebody who wants to be an autocrat, someone, and it's out there. And this book, you know, we've been hearing the beating of that drum for a long time. Actually, there was an article in the Washington Post in 2016. Interesting day, 2016. What happened there? That this would be relevant again, right? So, yeah, early from the very beginnings of the Trump presidency and before his presidency, there was the danger of we knew was coming and people knew was coming. So, an important book. I think it's not something that needs to be taken lightly. I think people who have no idea of history don't understand. The nationalists consider themselves patriots when they're really 1 degree of separation from a fascist. They don't understand that nationalism was what brought on fascism. It's what brought Japan into the Second World War. It wasn't anything good. And it, she mentions the evolution of propaganda and then violence, which, we got Fox beating the beat, the propaganda beat. We got Newsmax. We've got a lot of right-wing organizations promoting lies and fake stories and planting stories and witnesses, etc., recycling old stuff, old hatreds, or the anti-Semitism always got a place in the sun. And that's really where this book begins. It actually begins with the anti-Semitism of the 1800s, and then it rolls into the evolution of totalitarianism as it was perfected in the 30s and 40s by Germany and the Soviet Union. So she goes through all of that, and look where we are today. We got anti-Semitic riots. We got colleges aligning themselves with a terrorist organization. We've got interesting times right now. So I think there's definitely a book that needs to be looked at. It's been around for a long time. Give it to all your friends, because it's been spreading. I think Bannon has done an amazing job getting out into Europe and Hungary and Poland, places like that where have become all but authoritarian governments, and that's being pushed by Americans. So it's really we got Americans waiting to vote for leading into fascism right now. So it's a really interesting, scary time. And you got to read the book so you can understand your place in history. I think everybody on this site understands their place in history. I think it's a book that you can pass on to people so they can try to understand what the realities of what they're asking for really mean to you. And you think, just your right to an abortion, your right to decide when or how you can have a child. That's like the least of the worries that are going to be coming down the road. It gets much worse. So the rumblings are there. We've seen it. We know it. They're overtly talking about it, and it's no secret. So if you get caught by surprise, you really haven't been paying attention. This book's been around for a long time. Check it out.
Yep. And that's
Also,
the one thing. Go ahead, Julia.
I was just gonna say Anne Applebaum, who does the intro, it looks like is an amazing expert on this in this field. She wrote The Twilight of Democracy and has wrote a lot about Russia and the gulags and things like that. So I actually would be. This is a great book. I love this. Well, I don't love it, but I have read it.
It's one of those books that sounds like it's a necessary.
It's important to read. Yeah,
It's
exactly. And
an important, necessary book.
Right, but I would be actually excited to read her intro as well, because she is so good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a book for Andrea, but it's one that I loved too. So, and I think Andrea and I have talked about this book numerous times. So the reason I'm bringing it up though is because it is now in paperback. So this was just one of those, if you're in, it's historical fiction at its finest. It's based on the author's family, brutalities of the Holocaust, speaking of, what things can happen. But at the core of this book, it's a story of love, ultimate loss, and the power of family. If you are a historical fiction reader or know someone, it's now in paperback. I think everybody needs to read that book. So I love that book. It's one of
I still have got it on my shelf, and I still haven't got to it because
it's so good, Gabe. I know
really
there's a lot to read. It's hard because we've got so many things to read, but I truly think that this is one of those, coming from such a very intimate family side of it. She did a really good job. She did an amazing job, and she's writing another book with her sister. But I don't know what it's actually going to address. So it's going to be interesting, but she's a great writer. So it was good. The little fun fact about her, which I absolutely adore because I watched a thing. Okay. So it was this big splash, big book in France, right? So then it blew up here in America. She was realized that she was going to be coming over here to do some American tour stops, right? So she taught herself how French
sweet.
speaking,
In 2 weeks. She thought
not
herself-
quite, 2 months. 2 months taught herself how to speak English so that she could communicate with her English readers when she came here. Yeah, right?
I
English
lived
is
there for
hard.
2 months. I could tell you lamella. I
Yeah.
learned to say apple and uomo. A man apple.
Yeah,
Apple
English
man
is
apple.
hard.
Like, where's the bathroom? Maybe I could come up with that. Too much. So she just did for us booksellers. She did a kind of an introduction to the paperback. So we got to go on this Zoom with her. She talked the entire thing. She spoke to us in English and was spot on perfect. It was incredible. It was great. I loved everything about it. So love those smart people.
She must be young.
Not that young.
There's no
Sorry,
hope.
game.
She mentioned a tiny bit about her new book coming out.
Yeah, what was that? I can't remember. What's my old brain?
It concerned the woman in the center of a love triangle with the artist Marcel Duchamp and I presume his wife. And it sounds fascinating. I don't think there's any date for the release yet, but definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, she's good. All right, stay on, Amanda, because we're ready to call it a night. So y'all were having some great chats going on. Sorry I didn't get to too many of them. But y'all are great readers, man. You guys, and somebody was mentioning the husbands. I know our head buyer read that and loved it. Thought it was a really fun book. So whoever's been going to read that next, I think it was Kim. It's going to be a fun one to read. So happy reading. We're getting into going to be summer reading stuff coming, I think, from everybody here soon. So I know that Tom had a few of them last week. So good summer reads coming. And it doesn't have to just be light and fluffy. It's just, something that we got time to read. So some of my most depressing books I've read have been on the beach. so
I
there
had to read Crime and Punishment in Hawaii once when I was in high school.
There you go. So that classifies as a depressing read on a beach.
What a good book, though.
That is a great book, but
Really?
I'm telling you, it's not.
And you probably
it
have this.
doesn't vibe with the beach in Maui.
Yeah, I was gonna say with these beautiful waves, and you're reading about like 2 parts of your brain going on.
Yeah, I was like, ooh.
Okay. All right, everybody. I will promise to have a better hairstyle next week because this is not cutting it. Julian
Thank
too.
you.
So yeah, I know. I got a scarecrow thing going. I'm not sure what's happening here, but it is not good. So we're gonna be working on this for next week. So all right, everybody. Happy reading.
You could always go to the game.